Hi, I'm Edward from Supermetrics, and this is the Marketing Intelligence Show, the podcast that empowers marketing leaders to work better with their data and make sure every marketing dollar counts. Now let's get into today's episode.
Hey there, welcome back to the Marketing Intelligence Show. My name is Jess. I'm the head of US marketing here at Supermetrics. In this episode, Lanny Chu, VP of Analytics, and Corey Sinelli, Senior Business Analyst from Manscaped, are talking about risk versus reward and the role analytics plays in Manscaped's edgy marketing strategies. So Lanny and Corey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it. Glad to be here.
First and foremost, can you maybe both introduce yourself and tell us, what your role is at Manscaped?
Sure. I'm Lanny Chu. I'm the VP of Analytics and Business Intelligence at Manscaped. I run the team where we start from data as a whole. Holistically, we ingest data from many sources, including Supermetrics. It's one of our key vendors. And then we get it down to actionable insights. I think that's really what we want to do. We want to boil the information to a point where we can be very tactical and intelligent, because we live in a world of tremendous information and can be tremendous confusion. So that's really my goal, is to get to a point where we can inform decision makers with key tools to help us maximize our business goals.
Amazing. Corey, you want to give us a little introduction as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Corey Sinelli. I'm the Senior Business Analyst working with the marketing team here at Manscaped. So very similar to kind of what Lanny mentioned, but just more specific to the marketing team. So being a marketing sort of driven company, we have so many different really talented people and teams that are specialized in, whether it's paid media, whether it's podcasts, influencers, all of these different marketing spaces that are seemingly exponentially evolving. I help to dial as much of that as we can in and get as efficient, as optimized, and as intelligent as we can, because we're always trying to stay on the cutting edge, and we're not trying to just go out there blind. We're trying to be as informed as we can.
Yeah, and I think
awesome.
Also this environment also, we see a lot of there's so much innovation going on, and so many new marketing channels are coming up, and understanding the relationship between them is very important. Plus, we live in an omni-channel world, so understanding the relationship to a retail or Amazon sales is incredibly important. So it's a constantly moving landscape, and we have to be very flexible and always on our toes.
That's awesome. I definitely have some questions about your omni-channel mix, because I think that that's so relevant today. And, talking about, so Manscaped has had a pretty incredible growth journey. I think one of the stats I saw, it was 3 to 300 million in 3 years, which is amazing. And the quote that went along with that was, Manscaped made fun what traditionally was a taboo topic. And I think that blends really well into, this risk versus reward, and how you guys, really push some of these edgy, fresh marketing campaigns out. So my first kind of question is, I'd love to understand a little bit further from the analytics perspective. Did you run any tests to see if more of this edgy approach would work better than what I would consider more of like a traditional marketing approach?
We have a couple things we do. I mean, we definitely try to test everything we can, and all new campaigns that come out have their own ROI. And Corey does a lot of the work to set those up and get the marketing adjustments and reads correct. But like one particular example is we have in some regions there is a less risque version of some Google ads that we run, so we can definitely check the performance of the more risque versus the less risque. And as you might expect, we're a pretty unique product. And so we have humor as a huge element of not just our marketing campaign, our culture. And so the more risque stuff tends to do better. We had a pretty famous one recently where there's an MMA fighter called Derek Lewis, and
I saw this.
Yeah, he sort of organically, he took off his shorts after a fight, and Joe Rogan asked him, like, why did you do that? And he said his groin area was hot. And I guess he said my balls was hot. So we just sort of took that on. We have a relationship with the UFC, and he launched a campaign for us, and that has done fantastic. We got a ton of free press, and organically went viral a couple times. So I think we really try to lean into that ethos there.
Yeah, I would springboard off of what Lanny just said with, I believe, and I'm going to butcher the specific verbiage around it, but one of our core tenets when you first join Manscaped is something to the effect of, we want to be funny, we want to be edgy, but we never want to be offensive. That's something that's sort of a line kind of we're always trying to, I think, maintain a balance on. And so the Derek Lewis is a great example. For those who haven't seen it, I would encourage checking out that commercial. It's about 30 seconds, but he was a really good sport about it and really leaned into, the culture, the humor that we present. So obviously took a organically very funny moment that happened in the heat of a UFC match and turned it into what effectively was a pharmaceutical commercial. Like if you watch it, it was directed in the sort of vein of you're watching some commercial for a senior citizen medication. And he leaned into it and talked about, how with Manscaped he can help battle the plight that is my balls was hot. And things like that were just a very organically emerging idea. And that's where, the talented people that we have on the marketing team, along with our ability to do some of these sort of on the fly optimizations and better understand the performance of an opportunity like that. It's really kind of one of the, to Lanny's point, just recent success stories, but that's sort of like been the journey of Manscaped going all the way back to, I think the first celebrity that we worked with, or big celebrity, was Rob Gronkowski and his commercials, him out in a yard with his girlfriend, I think wife, maybe girlfriend at the time. And this was featuring the lawnmower. And so looking at making all of those puns, right, about the lawnmower, edging the bushes and all these other things, it's kind of been sort of a core of the Manscaped identity for a long time. And I think we've also just done a really good job of maintaining that without ever, at least to date, right? That's what our job's kind of for, not ever going too far over the rails, not letting us enter that territory where we could be considered being offensive or coming off a little too crude. We want it to be funny. Again, we're making jokes about, very similar, I think, to what's going on in a middle school lunch table for boys. So we have to understand that that's sort of the baseline, but let's still be, as educated and as, let's call it, dialed in as we can with making those decisions.
Yeah. I think just generally, like, given the nature of the product, you have to laugh because it's funny. So I was trying to explain to my dad what it was, and he's in his 70s, so he didn't quite understand. So I think there's just a lot of that element where if you don't have a sense of humor about it, you can't really market. You have to be, I think, fun. We're not going to have like a Quaker Oats style marketing campaign. We have to be on the edgy side.
Yeah. But, I really love, because I think that that's a really great point. Like, how do you be edgy and funny and kind of make light of something that might have been a little uncomfortable in previous conversations without going like overboard to be offensive? And I think that Manscaped has done that extremely well. Most recently in that I loved, and if anyone hasn't checked it out, their new The Boys campaign was just absolutely fantastic. I loved it. And I saw the press release with this, and your CMO had said, when you're trying to scale on performance marketing, it reaches a point where scaling is no longer efficient. You need to work a top of the funnel brand to make it a bit more front and center. And I thought that that was so interesting in the way that a lot of marketing is moving and more of like that authenticity and a lot of the brand building you guys have been doing. So I'd love to understand, like, from the analytics perspective, what has changed and what new data points are you using to determine ROI and ROAS with the top of the funnel brand building approach?
Yeah, those are great questions. And I think it's definitely true. When our CMO talked about it, we live in a world where we grab all the keywords, we know what works well in Google search, and we roll on all the podcasts. You run out eventually. We have a tremendous budget, but even with that, like, we are sort of maxed out on a lot of the traditional media. So getting to that brand building phase is very important. It's also very important because we have a lot of the growth in our company has been through marketplaces, Amazon, eBay. We're started a TikTok shop, and also in our retail partners, and we don't have as much ability to directly affect those channels with spend. So it really is a top of the funnel awareness campaign. To that point, it is much more of a challenge to measure because Google's kind of great in that you click, you buy, we know what you spend, it's really fast. Similar with Facebook and other partners we have. Whereas we're looking for like more secondary indicators, I would call them, because we can't do the direct measurement. So things like the fraction of our sales that are, The Boys is a growing focused campaign. We have other products as well. So we can look at the shift in our sales between growing and non-growing, for example, as one measure. We can look at the sales in our retail partners. Did they go up? Did they go down? We are in Target and Walmart right now. So we have good data coming out of them on what's getting sold. Similarly, on our Amazon channel, we can see the effectiveness. The other thing we can do also is we have a lot of tools to look at conversion rate by brand term or keyword search term. So we can look at the delta of that between the pre and post launch period to see if we're driving more of that brand interaction. And then finally, we also have some tools to do, we do have a lot of comments and views. So we have things like in our Amazon reviews, we can download all those. We have Yotpo to capture reviews. So we can also just take a look and, we're starting to get into use like some AI tools to look at those comments pre and post and see if there is an ability to tell if there's a difference and if it did move the needle. And those are also very nice because we can segment out the Walmart customers versus the Target customers versus the DTC customers. And we can see if there's differences in what the comments are telling us in those different categories.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. That was a really comprehensive answer by Lanny, but I would just say, just to your initial question about, how do we measure with a changing sort of, if you want to call it like objective versus what we've maybe done in the past, which was more about acquisition, really focused on trying to just get people to our website, get them into, a purchase funnel. And ideally, we offer sort of a subscription plan that people can opt into. They come in at a lower initial price for their product that they're purchasing, and they enter a 3-month subscription cycle. So that's the idea. That's, I think been sort of the bread and butter, the ideal sort of customer path that we've seen historically. But as we mentioned, as the company grows, as we become more omni-channel, there's not the same sort of like ROAS calculations or dollars to dollars that we might have seen in the past with, we spend this much money on Facebook or Google or the combination of these multiple channels, we can pretty directly see that immediate impact on our D2C, our website sales. When we're now sort of everywhere, right? We're both at end caps of Target as well as, Tesco's in the UK and in Australia. I think one of the big things that we've had to sort of do is readjust what those KPIs look like. So rather than looking at things like ROI and ROAS as necessarily being the end all be all, or maybe obviously those are still like, indicating what you're doing from a profit perspective and how well you're efficient, how efficient you're being from a marketing perspective. But I do think that those also sort of, to Lanny's point, we have a slew of new sort of metrics or benchmarks that we create to see the difference, especially for a branding campaign. We're not expecting this to be something that's going to immediately drive sales. If you are familiar with those that have watched the Voice campaign, there's not a call to action in that. It really is not like telling you to go purchase. It's more of just instilling the idea of what Manscaped is in the hopes that maybe not the next time, but maybe the third time you see us when you're checking out at Walmart or Best Buy or anything else like that, that we permeated and we become sort of an idea of, what the product is, what we can offer. And we've, I hate to say normalized because that makes us sound weirder than we might be, but you know what I mean? I think you might know what I mean. Just normalizing the idea of Manscaped in their lives. I think that's become sort of a big shift for all of us. This is the biggest sort of shift in campaign structure that we've done, at least since Lanny and I have both been here. And so it's been kind of a fun journey for everyone to go down together.
Yeah, and I've seen that third-party retailers have been a big go-to-market approach for you all from an omni-channel perspective. And I also notice the way that you communicate on different channels is, slightly different. Like your YouTube channel versus your TikTok channel versus your Instagram channel has very similar branding, but sometimes different. Like one is more educational, one is more funny, one has like obviously a lot of your commercials and everything in it. So I'm wondering, to your point, from more of a channel mix perspective, are you still looking at things that are very specifically driving D2C? Like you are still looking at that acquisition versus third party, or how are you making some of those marketing decisions in-house from like an analytics perspective?
That's a great question. I think what we do have is we do a post-purchase survey. So we have a lot of information on the demographic information of our individual customers based on the entry channel. So, TikTok skews younger. I didn't know how much younger, but it skews quite a bit younger. Some of our products skew older. So for example, our beard product tends to be for, takes a while to grow a beard. So, it's not really the 18, 24-year-old as much. So we have a lot of information about the breakdown of our incoming customers from the different channels, which then helps us educate on what would be the most effective marketing tools in that campaign. For the retail shoppers, it's more challenging. I mean, we have high-level metrics. I used to do a lot of stock market investing, so we can get some information out of the 10Ks and 10Qs about Target versus Walmart and their customer information. But it is much more of a challenge because we don't get that level of granularity about what's being purchased as much. So that's where we have to look at some of these higher level metrics around overall sales, and we can look at things like product mix. So for example, the Walmart tends to be a little bit of a lower income cohort than Target. So our Lawnmower 3, which is a great product, but we're currently on Lawnmower 5. That's our flagship product. Lawnmower 3 is doing amazingly well at Walmart, and at Target, it's a slightly different product mix. So we can try to tease a lot of the information out about who is buying and what that implies for the marketing as well as the product mix that we want to offer.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add on to that. I think that to Lanny's point, the big thing with sort of this shift that we're making is still keeping the focus on D2C. And what the great thing about direct to consumer, I guess, is what I'm referring to, and that's our own website sales. The thing that I think that we found is still really relevant or valuable is that in the world of omnichannel, especially when we're working with so many different third parties, talk about marketplace sellers like Amazon, TikTok, there's a more shallow pool available of customer data, and there's still so much that we can get, and it's not even a completed story. I think there's always new wrinkles or new sort of perspectives with which we can look at our customer data that we're collecting, and that can take many different shapes, right? Lenny mentioned our post-purchase survey. We look at reviews on a general perspective, like product reviews aggregated from across different websites, as well as just behavior, right? So getting more and more refined, especially in the world with the deprecation of third-party cookies, figuring out the best ways to go about identifying customers, sort of creating cohorts, understanding those trends, and then figuring out ways that we can create. Again, I think the big part of it is making a shift between just looking at here's the ROI number we want to go to, and more of, okay, we've seen that throughout time, this is a benchmark for number of growing search term conversions, right? Per day or per week. We want to maybe make that a new focal point rather than just only looking at ROI as a measurement for success. I think especially with this omni-channel spread, there's so many other relevant pieces. The website data is still a major part of that engine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh yeah, no, just to call out. I mean, Corey makes a great point about the LTV. So we really do have it's a subscription-based business, but also in the last couple of years, we've introduced a wide range of new great products. So we launched a beard product. We have a handyman foil product. We're launching a skull shaver. And so the other thing that we've found, especially on some of our, notably in Amazon and across the board, we're getting people to re-engage with the brand by buying additional products. So we can, obviously Lawnmower is great. When the new one comes out, you should pick that up. We also have a wide variety of products. So we're trying to get broad as well. So we started out as a growing company. Probably we'll always be known as that, but our biggest growers last year were outside the growing. So that's one of our key initiatives as a company. And I think that's where some of the branding helps too, because we can drive those non-growing purchases. And if we make that awareness, that really helps build that LTV model up. So, that's really, I think, a lot of the secret sauce that we've noticed here the last couple of years is these additional products are very, very incremental. So it's great for us because, if you're just creating a lawnmower, we're the category leader. We can only grow so big. We're really trying to get into other categories and really dominate them to the same extent that we've had because we have a great brand reputation.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's really awesome that you guys are doing so much with customer voice and, post purchases from a survey perspective, because that leans more into demographically, if you know your audience. Does that help you determine new product launches, or people giving you feedback of what they're looking from Manscaped?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we do a lot of customer surveys to see what customers want, what value propositions they have. We have a great product development team that, we have a 5-year roadmap with all kinds of great stuff coming out. That's part of it. The other thing we can also do is, one of the things we looked at is we looked at the fraction of the population by zip code in America. We have that from the census. And then we can look at the fraction of sales in our D2C business in those same zip codes, so we can see where we over and under index. And that also gives us a pretty good idea of what types of folks, as these geodemos have similarities across the country, we can then look at those and say, oh, we can infer a lot based on the zip codes. Because, every zip code, if you're selling really well in Salt Lake City and you're selling really well in downtown Chicago, there's very different geodemographics, income levels, all the different populations. Historically, we've done really, really great amongst the military population. So that's something that's very noticeable right away. So we can kind of share these insights with our retail partners and to help them merge the stores or go heavier in certain areas where certain cohorts are going to be really receptive to our products.
Yeah, and to go off of sort of the idea like of how we're shifting that from a customer demographic perspective, I also think one of the things that we do from a user behavior or just understanding purchase patterns by customers is we've really been able to, we're very lucky. We have a stellar star-studded team that handles our Amazon, our marketplaces, and the way that they put together different products on there, the different listings, the management of those listings. And then additionally, we leverage a virtual bundling on Amazon, which is sort of an option where our team can go in and identify, say, one of the big success stories that we've done with this is, say it's running into Prime Day, or there's a sort of a holiday that comes up, and we know we start to see a velocity increase in terms of sales. Our team is able to go in and sort of see what our customers buying, not just from a standalone purchase perspective, but what sort of self-kitting is occurring, right? What products are people buying together, and what opportunities might there be for us to work to create that bundle that might not be something that you can buy directly on our website store because of there's plenty of other logistics issues that come into play when we're talking about creating a bundle. But we've been able to do a lot of testing with those virtual bundles historically, and they've been very successful for us to sort of do in real time. What are people kind of creating on the fly? Okay, it looks like they're really combining, to Lanny's points earlier about the move beyond the growing that we've been doing for the last couple of years. People really do seem to have a propensity to want to buy both a lawnmower for below the groin and one of our new face trimmers, whether that's the handyman foil trimmer or that's the beard hedger full-fledged beard sort of device. There's an ability to sort of give those offerings as they're coming in, and that's actually led to, just in the last week since the time of this recording, we just launched those same bundles that we were seeing a lot of success on in the Amazon channels in our D2C website business. So the beard and balls bundle and the groin and go bundle have now recently just come out on our website as official offerings, and so far they're looking great. And we're sort of using those insights that we were able to gather from real-time customer purchases, as well as doing some testing in sort of a more, if you want to call it, a closed environment or a more limited time frame.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
It is. The thing I would call it is, based on the post-purchase survey, that was one of our customers told us that. They said, we asked them what they wanted, and you can imagine we're an interesting product, so there were some interesting comments, but one of the things that did come through was, can I buy both of these? And obviously you can buy both of them, but yeah, let's give you some value. So we do have in our category, we are the highest cost product. It's the highest quality product. So, sometimes putting them together can be a little bit challenging financially, especially nowadays. But if we provide that value to get a great bundle, so yeah, buy a Lawnmower 5 and a beard hedger, and we'll give you a great price on those two things. I think it's a very, very powerful marketing strategy right now, especially in an era where, we all have seen the benefits of inflation, and Corey and I live in San Diego and feel like you can't drive because once to pay $6 for gas. So I think that's a powerful story, I think, right now, especially.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Also, I think it's just so important for your customers to know you listen. Like so many brands, it's just, I don't get that many post-survey questions about brands that I buy online. And there are a lot of times that I would have bought more than one product, but I said, let me test one first and then see if I like it. And maybe I go back, maybe I don't, but I would have bought two if they had more options. So I think it's also just the voice of the customer and using that. It's so powerful. And I love that you guys are doing that from a marketing strategy.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we want to make our customers as happy as possible, and that benefits us. That helps our growth and helps grow the brand. And I always think that the most important thing is we have over 10 million customers worldwide right now, but there's over 340 million Americans, and so there's 7 billion people in the world, so there's still a lot of scope to expand our presence.
That's awesome. I'd love to understand now, you guys are big users of Supermetrics. How are you using Supermetrics in your role today?
Yeah, I can probably start on this one. So I'm the primary person on our team that's really going in and working within the Supermetrics platform. And I would say one of the things that we gravitated us towards the product initially and has been sort of what's kept us coming back is the ability not only to kind of have the native integrations through a vast array of different channels. And by that, I mean connections through APIs for things like TikTok and sort of your big ones, TikTok and Bing ads, Google ads, but also even rogue channels, fringe channels, as we might refer to them as. So smaller, new sort of upstart marketing platforms that are maybe not out of the box, providing an easy means of automating the collection and then sort of transformation of the data that we can get from there. One of the things that we've really enjoyed about our partnership with Supermetrics is that the ability to do your extraction and integration tools are extremely intuitive, and they're all also very well maintained to the point of I'm constantly going in there. I'll come off of a meeting with some people on the marketing team and I'll hear about a new, I don't know, let's call it like Quipper or something like that. Some weird new marketing thing that's going to do something for us, right? Just as an example. I'll hear that and I'll say, okay, well, I have no idea how we're going to get this ingested with everything else. This company sounds like it's, just started in a garage or something. They probably don't have the infrastructure. The amount of times that I've been surprised to find that there already is an existing integration with Supermetrics really is a good indicator that you guys are staying ahead of the curve, or sort of like staying with the industry as far as new emerging platforms, new emerging ways of ingesting the data. And so that would be on the just sort of what brought us in the first place, was being able to get an easier means rather than needing to get a developer internally that was going to go be writing calls to APIs all the time and all the other things like that. It would be a full-time job. So we're really getting a lot of benefit from that perspective. And on the other side, I think one of the things that I've found the most useful from it is the data like blending tools that you guys provide, which allows us to do a lot of the transformation that we end up doing down the road in our internal reporting system. So we use Looker and Manscaped, some companies similar to like a Google Studio or Power BI. We use Looker, and for Looker, we end up sort of aggregating everything. And that includes everything we get from Supermetrics, as well as different internal Manscaped-owned database suppliers, our NetSuite data for operations, things like that. I think the thing about Supermetrics platform that allows us to be a lot more strategic is the blending that I can do within that platform before I send it down to the data lake, if you will, where we kind of keep everything else. I'm able to sort of do some testing, do some refining, make sure everything's lining up the way that we want it to. They're constantly changing, even things as simple as like attribution windows or ways, again, like we talked about earlier, with the shift from a more of like to branding from more of an acquisition orientation for us. I think that's also been a big help with Supermetrics, is the flexibility with which we can change those integrations and the ways that we're streaming the data in. It's helped us sort of look at things that we haven't looked at before. So for example, we use our Snapchat data comes through our Supermetrics integration. One of the things that we tested with the boys campaign was a custom filter. So again, part of the whole branding idea here being that there's probably not a lot of custom filters that are necessarily activating purchases immediately, but we created, for those who haven't seen yet, it's a filter that'll just create your boys for you, which is just two sort of smaller lookalike versions of you. And the filter allows you to change their hairstyles. So kind of a silly thing, but again, part of the fun of doing a brand campaign, it's supposed to give that humor, fun little activity to do. One of the questions was, how do we measure this? What does that look like? This isn't an ad on Snapchat. This isn't a, conversion oriented. What are we going to measure uses our filter? So we were able to get that data. That data is already existing, available through some of the native Supermetrics options. And so we were able to kind of pull that out and see the performance of something like Snapchat filter while we're going over how everything else in the campaign is performing. We can also say, oh, and we had X thousand users per day on average of the boys filter, which is, again, going back to the conversation about our benchmarks, we call that's great. That's a great success.
That's incredible. First of all, thank you for going so thorough in that. I feel like any of my follow-up questions you answered for me. I'm curious, how did the campaign do?
We're only just about 2.5 months in, so still very early, I think, in what the life cycle that we're considering internally. It's, again, for the ways that we're kind of constantly changing the performance, things are looking good so far, but there's awesome. A lot of sort of to what we've been talking about this whole time. It's a shift for everybody's expectations, right? I think in the past, we've sort of been kind of, just turning out the hits, if you will. We'll go come up with a new piece of creative. We'll put it on TikTok. We'll blast that on TikTok, Snapchat, all the others. And, lawnmowers will basically just start flying off the shelves. I think that this is a different sort of idea for us. And it's been really rewarding to work, both alongside Lanny and all these different team members, both from marketing to the retail teams to everything, to sort of talk about how we're shifting this expectation and, where we can see the wins come from. So very early, signs are looking good thus far, but, we're thinking this is a multi-quarter at least long initiative. So we're in the early stages, and that's kind of the fun part of it too. We're still kind of coming up with different ways to look at it as we go.
Yeah, I think we do have we have the premium product in the space. So our decision cycle, I think, is a little bit longer than, it's not the $30 shaver you can kind of throw in.
Mhm.
Products are the highest quality ones, so it does take a little longer for that decision matrix to go through. But I would say I think our reach has been quite impressive. We've hit hundreds of millions of impressions. The TV ads we've shown a lot of engagement with our ads. We know that the word's getting out. So, and to Corey's point, I think this is longer. It's like kind of like moving a big boat where you gotta like shove it a little
Yeah.
bit and just kind of see where it goes. So we'll continue to track it over time, but thus far our high level hypotheses have borne out. And so we're really happy about the performance today.
That's fantastic. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that it's going to do so well because I loved that campaign so much, and I'm not even your demographic. So I can only imagine how well it's doing for your others.
You'd be surprised. We have about 15% of our customers are women.
Really?
Gender API, which is a tool to get that information. And about 20% of those do purchase products for self-use. So despite the fact that we have a pretty aggressively male-focused company, and it's called Manscaped, women do find value in it too. I mean, they primarily purchase for gifting purposes, but they also, when you do read the commentary in the surveys, like there's a lot of women who talk about how they're using it for themselves, and it's a
That's fantastic.
product. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I was just going to throw in one more thing, and I meant to bring this up earlier when we were talking about sort of the ways that we're sort of responding to customer behavior, customer feedback. To Lanny's point, just about the percentage of women purchasers that we see using the Manscaped products. For those of you who might go to the website, you might wonder why we're trying to basically rip off like the iPhone with our right now. You'll see on our lawnmowers we have the Lawnmower 3.0, the Lawnmower 4.0, and the Lawnmower 5.0. I promise that is not solely because we're trying to just do annual releases for our shareholders or whatever the idea might be. A lot of that is because if you look at those product differentiations, there are a lot of different pieces of feedback that we've baked into each one of those models. Obviously, there's a different price point delineation between them to indicate levels of like features that are available. But the other part of it is listening to feedback as far as, how the light on the device should work. Where should it be? How bright should it be? How big should the handle be from an ergonomics perspective? Does it fit better in this hand or that hand? How do we, make it as easy for people to use? And that cannot be the same for everyone, right? There's different feedback, and depending on the type of customer we're listening to, we're getting a lot of different nuances baked into both the, product suite as a whole, talking back to the expansion beyond the groin with sort of addressing the need for beard trimming, face trimming, other things like that are part of a guy's daily grooming habits. But I also think that, the really interesting thing that we're able to do with the lawnmowers is because we have sort of a suite of models that are now part of this is a newer initiative to have 3 kind of concurrent new models that are all recently remodeled and refined, and they're all based on different customer feedback to better sort of give an option to the customer based on anything as far as how close to the skin do I want to go, all the way to how much of does grip play a role in my ability to use the tool correctly or comfortably. So all of those things are also kind of being layered in on ever moving basis for us.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is we do like having a good, better, best type of option. I think is really powerful for consumers. Like especially we know in our younger cohorts, our 18 to 24-year-olds, we want to get those people involved in the brand as early as possible. I know when I was 18, when I went to college, I had literally $10 in my wallet, and that's all I had till Monday. And I was going to live on peanut butter sandwiches and counting them out. Like, I wonder how many I can have over the weekend. So for those cohorts, we want to provide more affordable products to get them in and get them involved in the brand. And then as you age up and you get more jobs, and you can, be a lifetime customer. So, but I think that is also quite important. Like the example of the iPhone is a good one. Like, I don't even know how people buy iPhones because I think like, especially for teenagers, it seemed like fantastically expensive. So getting some more value items on there, I think is really important. And we always want to keep, it's great to have longtime customers who are older and wealthier, but it's really the younger folks who are going to create that long-time relationship, which is going to build shareholder value for the long term.
I have a question for you on because you're doing so much product innovation with your data. How do you feed that into your creative teams for them to use it in more of like the go-to-market creative approach? So like when you want to push out these new versions and you're like, hey, this data is saying that we need better grip, better light, closer or farther shaving capabilities. And so this is the way that we're going to innovate the product. How does that data like make it back into the creative lens to push that out?
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit to it. Our marketing team is really, I've said it previously, but I think that it really does kind of put a lot of other, at least in my work experience, marketing like organizations, I don't want to say to shame and speak poorly, but like we have such a robust amount of people who are both really talented at what they do specifically. So for instance, we have a team that just specializes in Facebook ads, or a team that just specializes looking at Google ads. And so we have people who are such, to a granular level experts in the platforms with which they work on, that not only are we able to do this on a high level where, again, I think kind of what you're asking about is maybe doing some like copy testing or some A/B testing from an image perspective to see sort of what types of things are working in different demographics. But that can also change, right? The 18 to 24-year-old male audience on Facebook might not respond the same way that it does on Google ads or Snapchat, things like that. So we have a group of people, or a team that is constantly looking at these things. And we also, I think, always come in fully loaded, if you will. So before we do any sort of go-to-market or any sort of launch, we're going to have creative assets that are already fully prepped for all of these different talking points that we've identified that would be applicable. And it's not just applicable, but it's also true, right? We go through countless iterations working with our compliance and regulations teams as well as legal, to make sure that the claims that we're making, right? Skin safe technology is a big one. That's a trademark term that we have with our blades. All of those things are, compliant, both from an advertising regulation perspective, but also that they're things that are going to be compelling to our customers. And we don't just go with one option or even two options. I think A/B testing is probably a minimized way of putting it. I would say we're A to Z testing all the time, and in multiple directions, right? So we're not just kind of checking different images for ads. We're checking how does a GIF versus a video work for this, as well as regional changes, as well as audience changes. So there's kind of this almost matrix, if you will, that's going on within each one of these teams to figure out in real time. So we do not only obviously, our standard weekly reporting, we do daily reporting, we also do intraday reporting that leverages some of our Supermetrics data. So we can really see, as we turn these dials, as we kind of move, spend into different categories or push certain types of creative or push certain channels, right? What's actually resulting in people responding better to those pieces of creative. And again, those objectives can change. Is it just we're trying to get someone to use this discount code and come and convert immediately? Or is it someone that we're just trying to get to come to the website and at least check out 3 different product pages, right? Those different objectives can constantly kind of be tinkered with within this matrix that I think each one of the teams and then the marketing sort of engine as a whole is all working on.
Do you use Supermetrics to test some of that too? Is that a use case that you use Supermetrics for?
So we'll create like flags, kind of, if you will. So like what I'll do is, we'll create something with, whether it's within the name of a campaign on Google Ads that's consistent across all the different channels. We'll create delineators that indicate what is part of something. So for instance, for the boys campaign that we're currently running, we're also it's not the exclusive piece of content that we're running across all of our paid media right now, right? That's, if you see us on TV, that's probably going to be the TV spot you see around this time. But we're still running our, I think there's still some Derek Lewis that might be in rotation. There might be some just general product ads that are in rotation, things like that are all kind of moving at the same time. So with the boys, what we were able to do is, using the Supermetrics data, create flags that indicate which campaigns we want to include, if you will, as part of the boys' performance. And that's across all of the channels. It's not just saying, okay, on Google, we're going to put this campaign group as the boys, this campaign group's not the boys. These could be within many different buckets within each platform. And then we're able to aggregate all of that to say, okay, on a general level, how is the boys creative doing compared to, everything else in rotation right now, or a similar ad that maybe we've run historically, right? Things like that.
Yeah, and I would say we go a step further. I mean, we also have, because we can track conversion data to the campaign name, so we can know, are the boys campaigns converting better or worse, on which channels, Facebook, Meta. We also track LTV from things. So I think one of the hypotheses would be, as people come in on these key terms, is your churn rate going to be higher for the subscription product? Are you going to repeat buy more? And I think that's obviously we just started the campaign, so we don't know those metrics yet. But getting ahead of we've set up a lot of the analyses so that we can do it with that Supermetrics data, and that's super valuable because, we do know that, like, we have person comes in and purchases X dollars today. We have a very good idea now of knowing what their future purchases are going to be. But if we can take that up 5-10%, I mean, that's huge, right? Because the acquisition costs, everyone knows customer acquisition costs are always high. So, I mean, they're too high, right? But getting customers to repeat purchase, that's really where you can just get a lot of profitability and, a lot of more happy customers too. So I think if we can get customers to purchase more products, their NPS goes up. We love to build that relationship with them where they can be, it's not just a groin shaver. We have a suite of products, and that's what really get them involved. So I think that's the other great element is that we can use the Supermetrics data to track those future purchases from any cohort that comes in.
That's amazing. My next question for you guys is, do you think you could do your job today without Supermetrics?
I mean, you guys have the answer is no, but we'd have to find one. If Supermetrics, we have to find one. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I would agree. There would be some very poor, probably multiple interns that would have to be going in daily to do all of the stuff that we're letting Supermetrics do for us automated. So yeah, no, it would be an uncomfortable thing to lose for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to mention anything about we find tremendous value in the product. So we could, to Corey's point, we could hire 10 people to do it all, but that's not an efficient use of time, and it's not going to be accurate, and it's going to be very costly. So we derive a lot of value from the tool.
Thank you so much. Guys, I wanted to say thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for coming on the show. It was really awesome to learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing over there. Love the brand. And for any listeners who haven't checked out Manscaped, please go and check their product out. Absolutely amazing.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Intelligence Show, brought to you by Supermetrics. If you're enjoying the podcast, then we'd love for you to tap that subscribe button, leave a review, and share with your colleagues and peers. We'll see you in the next episode.